Cooper up across the 15, cuts left at the 20, on Saru at the 30, headed to the near sideline, one man to beat, makes the move at midfield, coming to the near side at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 10, 5, touchdown, Kentucky!
Welcome into another episode of Believe in Kentucky. The homie Aaron Gershon from the Cat's Paws is back with us this week. Jalen Whitlow is not here this week. We're coming at you on a different day, coming at y'all on a Tuesday with the game being tomorrow night against Mississippi State. So we'll probably be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. All three of us will probably be here. So AG, man, fresh off the trip to College Station, how you doing, man?
Yeah, man, it's good to have a couple home games, even though the weather is just absolutely horrendous. I don't know how it is down there by you, Vinny, but it's brutal. I'm ready for it to be over, the snow to be gone, but otherwise, it's good to be home and have a couple home games this week and not be on the road.
So you're from Connecticut, and you're saying it's brutal in Lexington? It's brutal?
Yeah, man, I'm not like, if it's in the 30s, I'm not a fan, but whatever. But this is bitter. Like, this is cold anywhere. The real feel right now is 4. That'll get you no matter what. So it's brutal out here, and the snow's not melting. We're supposed to get more on Thursday night, and I'm just ready for it to be done.
And I'm down here outside of Knoxville, and it hardly ever snows.
Right.
Like, they forecast it, and maybe you get a dusting, maybe you don't. Maybe, supposed to get 3 to 5. Nope. Supposed to get 1 to 3. Nope. Higher elevations in the Smokies might get something, but it's like it goes around us all the time. We might get a half an inch, maybe. I grew up in Kentucky, obviously. I'll call my mom. I'm 2 hours away. Born where Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee all meet, right in southeastern Kentucky, right at the base of Black Mountain, the highest mountain in the state. So I'll have nothing as usual. Call mom, and we got 7 inches out here. I'm like, and just to be not that far away, but the difference in the elevation and the way the weather hits, but
wild.
Unbelievably though, today or yesterday, we got what everybody else got. So we got
there you go
6, 8, 9 inches out there on the porch. My kids are like, oh my God, because they never really see snow to that level. It's not like they're from Hawaii, have never seen snow, but
sure.
They never see substantial snow. And I'm not from Connecticut, but I grew up with substantial snow. I get 6, 8 inches. We missed school. One time, I was 10 or 11, there was a big 3-foot blizzard. There's pictures of snow up to our waist, my sister and I. So been playing with the kids out in it, been enjoying it and trying to, let them see it. Got out and drove around town today a little bit just to let them see what it's like snowed in everywhere. So we finally got what everybody else has been getting. Still looking for the spring, but glad to see a little bit of snow. So.
No, I get that. For people that haven't had the experience as much, especially kids, I always respect that. But selfishly, growing up in it, over it, just done, ready to skip to spring weather. Last year, the winter was just so mild that it was so enjoyable. We basically just skipped a brutal winter, but not the same luck so far here in January. We'll see. It's supposed to warm back up, I think, after the weekend at least.
Yeah. We usually skate, but not this time. I understand. You mentioned 2 home games this week, so we definitely get to that. And I kind of call it, if you see us on the live on Twitter, we're live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, follow us at Believe in Kentucky. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Put a comment in there, leave a rating. If you like the show, go in there in the comments and subscribe and say, hey, I really like the show. Appreciate what everybody's doing. We definitely would appreciate it. But it's kind of a get right versus the Bulldogs week because you got Georgia and Mississippi State and Georgia coming in. But before we get to that, it would be remiss if we didn't get your thoughts on everything went down last week because you weren't able to be on last week. And we had former UK offensive lineman Max Godby with us with Jalen and myself. And we had Nick Saban retiring. We had Pete Carroll and Seattle not doing, business together anymore. Yeah. Bill Belichick. I don't know if that was that Wednesday as well, but the next day or so after it happened since you were on with us. So all those 3 guys not going to be on the sidelines where we used to seeing them for decades anymore. Your thoughts on that national championship game? The Liam Cohen, is he going to stay or go? Oh, we got your thoughts on all that. We're going to talk a lot of basketball too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was a wild week football without, all but, one college football game. There's a lot going on in the college game, obviously, first of all, with Nick Saban retiring. I mean, that one was, I get it. When you're at that age, it could happen at any point and you shouldn't be shocked, but just it happened so quickly, seemingly middle of the day that Wednesday, just kind of Chris Lowe of ESPN breaking that news. It just seemed very sudden and was like, oh my God, like checking, make sure it wasn't a dupe account or whatever. And now it was the real deal. And, within 48 hours, Kalen DeBoer, who you had just talked about the national championship game there, was coaching that championship game, didn't go the way Washington wanted. Another kind of dud of a game, which stinks. Hopefully we'll get some better natty games coming up here. It's been a little bit, that Alabama-Georgia game 2 years ago was pretty good, but we even had that nail-biter national championship game in a little bit. Hopefully we'll get one of those soon here. But, Kalen DeBoer's coaching that game, has to kind of get his guys through a really tough loss, a really great season, but knowing change is going to come within that program, not just because they lost and the season's over, but, all these seniors they had, all these draft guys, Penix, the receivers, Dylan Johnson, and then, he's the head coach at Alabama a couple days later. Just an insane turn of events. And then, the ripple effect it's had on college football. Jed Fish going from Arizona to Washington. That's really tough for Arizona. I saw a stat where they were 16 points off from going 13-0 this year. They had an outstanding season and they lose their coach to UW. So, and we'll see, there's going to be a lot of coordinator coaching, little smaller things, that are a ripple effect because of this. So crazy, that whole thing was crazy. To finish up with college, the Liam Cohen stuff is, I think it's frustrating for Kentucky fans because it came right from the horse's mouth, right? Liam Cohen talked about it when he was reintroduced on that Zoom call last January with us, that he wanted to lay some roots here. He wanted to be here for a couple of years. He wasn't going to rush out the door. And then you see he's interviewing for the Bears offensive coordinator job, and he's linked to Ohio State. And I think, I don't think you can be mad at Liam Cohen for interviewing. I mean, I think you'd be pretty silly not to, especially because I do think at the end of the day, Liam Cohen's probably more of an NFL coach, and that's probably where he's going to end up long-term eventually. I think this is a really good spot for him in the here and now in Kentucky. It even felt like kind of when the season started to go off the rails a little bit, and the last couple of weeks when, it was Alabama, they knew they were probably going to lose that game. They wouldn't admit it. The South Carolina game doesn't go well. There was a lot of talk before the Louisville game of how, going into the offseason, we need to build continuity. We need to get some transfers that have some multiple years, close out on this class. And then also, with Liam Cohen being back, having, familiarity with the system and player connection, all that good stuff. And Liam Cohen leaving would ruin all of that. Obviously. For Kentucky's perspective, you really hope he stays for at least one more year. And then at least if he's going to leave, you can figure it out in December and not in January and February when you're already so behind. And, spring ball is going to be here in a month and a half. But it's hard to tell where it stands. I don't think he's going to end up at Ohio State. It could be. I honestly don't have too much information on it either way. And I definitely don't have enough information on the Bears, but it seems just like with the number of candidates and guys like Shane Waldron, who did an amazing job up in Seattle with Geno Smith, it seems like there's tough competition for that job. So, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens. But as of now, looks like they're going to hold on to him, but it's a wake-up call that, even if they hold on to him this year, you might be going through this thing again until it finally happens that he leaves again. So I get why Kentucky fans are frustrated there.
Yeah, and like there's always change, but just this was probably something they thought they didn't have to worry about
right
immediately. And
right. Yeah, and I see a lot of people making the argument, oh, Mark Stoops flirted with leaving, but there was a lot of people that talked about how that I heard from, and I know other people reported that Liam Cohen wasn't necessarily going to follow him there. If John Summerall was the hire, he already has a rapport with Summerall because they were on that staff together in 21. He might have just stayed and been the OC for Summerall. And I'm sure he wants to be a head coach. at the college or NFL level, and he's got to do what he's got to do to get to that, whether that be going and taking this OC job at the Bears, somewhere else in the NFL. Look, the Titans are going to have an OC opening. Who the head coach? Like, if they hire an offensive-minded head coach, you probably will be safe. Like, if they hire a play caller, but if they hire a defensive guy, which I don't think they're going to do. If you fired Mike Vrabel, I don't think you're going to hire Bill Belichick. Mm-hmm. So what's Tennessee going to do? That's something to keep an eye on, because you obviously have Will Levis, who did pretty damn well with Liam Cohen calling the shots. So this thing's not over. It's not going to be over, and that's what's really frustrating, because it's late, man. Like, that's why Washington panic when DeBoer left. Arizona panic when Fish goes up, and now San Jose State, smaller school, but they're in panic mode. Their coach going to Arizona. If the South Alabama's in panic mode, their head coach just took the DC job at Alabama. So it's really late in the game for this stuff to be happening. And Kentucky already experienced this last year or 2 years ago, and they ended up with Rich Scangarello, which is probably a panic hire, and they don't want to have to do that again.
And it's going to be interesting how, no matter how Alabama filled their slot, the dominoes were going to go a certain direction. I mean, right. It was the board, so now you get the Pac Coast kind of vibrations going, the Pac, West Coast thing, with Arizona.
Yeah.
But say Lane Kiffin had taken it, then it would have been a whole different.
There would have been SEC ripples.
Yeah, and then still don't know what Harbaugh's going to do. It's just going to be so many moving pieces.
I mean, if Harbaugh leaves, like, is Byron Kelly really going to go from LSU to Michigan and leave LSU open? This thing ain't slowing down yet. We'll see. Harbaugh, I think, if Harbaugh doesn't leave, I think we're kind of at the point where it's just going to be some of these group of 5 openings that are now left. San Jose State, South Alabama. Sounds like Toledo could open because Jason Candle, their head coach, is kind of the guy that Ohio State is really high on for that offensive coordinator job. So you may have stuff like that pop up. And but yeah, if Harbaugh leaves, unless they might hire from within, because they've got some really damn good coordinators up in Michigan. But if they go and get a Brian Kelly or another big name from another program, this thing's just going to keep on, the carousel is going to keep on spinning into February, which is nuts in college football.
Yeah. You tweeted out yesterday that Stone Saunders, who if Cohen stays. Yeah, you might finally get that high school quarterback continuity where you don't have to keep going portal. We get Cutter Boley coming in. Saunders is coming in to visit this weekend, which is, like you said, a good sign. It's you don't know, but it's he's not looking elsewhere and all that. So it's good that he's coming.
Yeah, and Brock Vandegrift's made it. Like, Brock Vandegrift, remember, he committed before he even stepped on campus, because of whatever relationship he had already had with Liam Cohen and the trust he had in Liam Cohen. And he is here, so that's a good thing. Obviously, he graduated, I believe, from Georgia this December. So, if Cohen bounces, you risk losing him, because he could transfer at any point, and he could, obviously, everyone can transfer after spring ball. So there's a huge ripple effect this could have that you just want to avoid at all costs. Because I think, honestly, I was having this conversation with Dick Gabriel today. I think it was today, at least. That they kind of did it. I know they lost the Clemson game, but at least offensively, that game, the Louisville game, and then the additions they've made in the portal, they've picked up some momentum here. I think, at least, and you want to keep that rolling into next season, into spring ball, into fall camp, and then eventually into the season. If you take Liam Cohen out of that equation, that momentum it's absolutely and utterly gone. There's nothing. So they got to, hopefully they'll just dodge a bullet here. That's kind of what it's going to come down to. I don't think you can really credit anyone if they keep him, because he's making $1.8 million. They've already done their job to make sure he's well equipped financially. It sounds like he has full control of this offense based on what some reporting is out there. So it seems like Kentucky's done everything they can. So at this point, it would be dodging a bullet if he were to leave. So we'll see what happens.
It's not even a leverage play for a raise at this point.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you could give him a raise, but then you're talking about, I don't know where he ranks among offensive coordinators, but 1.8 is crazy. Like, Kentucky has done a really good job. Mitch Barnhart and the administration has done a really good job at, giving Mark Stoops what he needs to build this thing. And losing him would just be that there would be something deeper is going on. Because offense coordinators at the SEC level make more than they do in the NFL. So if he leaves and it's not about the money, maybe again, I think he's gonna eventually lay his roots in the NFL. That's just my opinion. I don't know that with any sourcing or anything like that. That's just kind of the vibe I get from him and from his coaching trajectory here. But if they lose him, there's something going on behind those walls. That look, I mean, again, Mark Stoops was almost out the door. Like, why was he ready to move on? Like something's happening, and if he leaves, then the red flags really are kind of too hard to ignore.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. Like you said, sooner than later, it's gonna pan out one way or another. You know?
Yeah, it will. It will. And then the Belichick thing, just to put a bow on this coaching stuff. That was, I guess, that was the least surprising, but it is just nuts to know that he's going to be coaching and not a Patriots. Patriots jersey, Patriots ripped jacket, whatever the hell he wears. It's going to be weird. I mean, he's been doing that almost my whole life. So obviously a lot of respect for him. I think if you're a Cowboy, he ends up with the Cowboys. He ends up with our hated Eagles. If he ends up with Atlanta, I don't think you could go wrong with Bill Belichick, even if he's 72. That roster kind of fell apart on him. I don't think he needs to be a GM again. If you let him coach ball, they're going to be – I mean, they were in but they were in a lot of games this year that with more talent, they probably could have won. So I think he'll be a home run whoever hires him.
So, is he willing to, as Parcells said, let somebody else buy the groceries and work with a GM? Yeah. Is he like? I mean, he's defensive guy too. So I don't know. Yeah. Offensively, how is he? Because he's done what he's done. He is how he is. He's confident. And look, I've won 6 titles. I've got an ego. I can however you want to be. But is he willing to adjust and adapt and
the new NFL?
Yeah.
That's why I kind of think Atlanta makes a lot of sense because it's kind of a low. It's Dallas. You know how it is with Jerry Jones. That's a tough one to answer to Jerry Jones. Philly, the pressure is going to be unbelievable. Probably they expect a lot up there, and rightfully so. Atlanta's kind of that in between, right, where the expectations aren't going to be insane. That team just wants something to hang their hat on and be excited about. They have some pieces that you can really work with, especially already on the defense. They had a really good defense this past year, but they're kind of a quarterback away. And if you're able to have that relationship with Arthur Blank, who seems to be one of the better owners in the NFL from everything I've ever read about him, and some of the coaches have success with, like Mike Smith, Dan Quinn took them to a Super Bowl. I mean, they've had some success. Dan Reeves, like there's some success in that franchise, not Super Bowl success, but winning seasons, playoffs, division titles. You get a quarterback in there with the running backs they already have with Drake London, Kyle Pitts. You use him correctly. The defense, I mean, that seems like a really good situation for Bill Belichick. So that's the one I'm kind of circling right now. But I just you're right. He does. There is some adapting that needs to be done. I think he's going to have to. No more Bill O'Brien, Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinators. You got to get a younger guy from this San Francisco tree that seems to be just kicking ass across the NFL. But at the end of the day, he is Bill Belichick. I'm going to put more trust in him than I am some other younger coaches who aren't any at all proven.
Yeah. And, my Cowboys flamed out, unbelievably. And look, we've had the past 2 years, we've had end of game insanity against the 49ers in those kind of losses.
Yes.
And this time the game's over at halftime, essentially, to come out and to be 2 games behind Philadelphia, to need some help to win a division, to get the help to win a division. I hate the 49ers, but we got help from San Francisco. Yeah. Philly has the easier schedule down the stretch to, the Giants and
twice Arizona. Yeah, they got their ass kicked.
And so Dallas, the gift for the Detroit game. and then we win this division, and we're a 2 seed.
I know, man.
We got to do is beat essentially a rookie in Jordan Love. I mean, it's his first year starter.
Yeah, first year starter.
First ever playoff game, which, you know.
And it's not just him, man. That offense is all first and second year dudes.
Besides Aaron Jones,
besides Aaron Jones,
yeah,
a bunch of young dudes.
And to make them look like Hall of Famers, you know, they did whatever they wanted to do all day long. Was ridiculous. If Jimmy Johnson was giving the pep talk at halftime,
he was.
Had Jimmy pissed off, and you know,
he was.
So
that was awesome.
Yeah, I took comfort in the fact that Philly flamed out the next day. They continued their tailspin, so good to see them out.
I was gonna say, like, the Cowboys, I think, just got outplayed, outcoached. I don't think they ever quit. The Eagles quit. They didn't want to be there, man. Like, that team, I know they had a couple, I don't know how many straight possessions it was where their defense held, but after that safety in the third quarter, they quit. Like, the tackling on that one touchdown, James Bradbury, Kevin Byard, they made business decisions on those. Like, they were like, well. Yeah. Like, I didn't see the Cowboys quit. They just got out schemed. They couldn't handle the motions from Green Bay, and you got to give, you know, LaFleur, Love, all those guys credit. Yeah. They just kind of out-schemed, outplayed Dallas on that day. I just think Philly is a case of Sirianni lost that team. Everything. They're just a disaster. And so we'll see what Dallas does. I think at this point, just based on what I've seen, like, I have more faith in McCarthy than Sirianni. Like, how could you not? I mean, I know, like, I get it. McCarthy's playoff record in Dallas is terrible. That game was unacceptable. And I'm sure for you as a Cowboys fan, that's pretty unforgiving. But compared to, like, I mean, Philly, like you said, you laid it out. The Giants twice, Arizona. The Giants should have swept Philadelphia. If Tyrod Taylor started that game, the Giants would have won that game. 100%. No doubt in my mind. And then they killed them at the last week of the year. Arizona beats them. San Francisco, you know, one thing to do what they did to Dallas at home, they go into Philly and absolutely dog walk them. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the warning signs with Philly were kind of there all year, right? Where they had a lot of close games. They lost to the Jets. Washington took them to overtime. Mm-hmm. Sam Howell put 31 on them. Like, there are some warning signs with Philly all year, and it was like a ticking time bomb. And boy, did that thing go off. So I will say, at least your Cowboys, you know, the score was whatever it was, and they kept fighting till the end and showed some heart and played for their coach, where Philly quit.
Man, yeah. So,
not that that's a moral victory, because what happened is tough and embarrassing. But I will give Dallas credit for that, because watching those two games every second of both, Philly was more embarrassing, I thought.
So I'm an NFC guy, but I'm hoping Detroit, Tampa represents the NFC. If we can get Green Bay,
that'd be more fun.
Green Bay and San Francisco on out of there for my selfish reasons.
That'd be more fun.
Baltimore and Houston, like the Texans. My goodness,
story, man! Wow. Yeah, CJ. I've been saying it all year. That dude's already a top 10 quarterback in this league, and he might be moving higher than that. I mean, what was his complete? What was he like? Last time I checked, it was like 18 for 21, and then I was driving back. I didn't get to watch most of that game because it was that toward the end of the A&M game and then post game and all that. But I mean, CJ Stroud's just unbelievable, and they've got some dudes at receiver, and their best receiver's been out for the second half of the year in Tank Dell. So unbelievable one for them, and that's not going to be easy for Baltimore. I think Baltimore they made the same mistake twice, and I'm a little concerned about for them is that they benched all their starters. They got the 1 seed. They benched all their starters against the Steelers, and you get it. You know, the weather was crappy that day. You don't want to risk injury, but they did the same thing 3 years ago, I believe it was, or 2019 season when they were the 1 seed. They did the same thing. You know, they started RG3 the last week of the year. They start all their backups, then they get Tennessee, and they just get dog walked because they looked slow. Houston being a young upstart team, they have nothing to lose. No one thought they'd even win 5 games, let alone be in the second round of the playoffs. Like that one's a little bit. I'd be curious to see what the line is and possibly dabble in investing in Houston on that, because I think they're going to make it a game. And then obviously, hopefully, Kansas City and Buffalo live up to the hype up there in Western New York.
Yeah, I think Buffalo gets a little bit of revenge.
I think so too.
They're just a buzzsaw.
Can you believe that Mahomes has never played a road playoff? I mean, he's been playing for six or 7 years now. Like this isn't his third postseason.
Because he was
2018 was his first playoff, 17 draft.
Yeah.
So this is his sixth year in the playoffs, and he hasn't played a road game.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
2 Super Bowls already,
2 rings, 3 appearances.
Yeah, that's.
And I think in the championship game every year, right? Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
I don't think they ever missed a championship game. It's crazy. Never played a road playoff game. So I am curious to see, especially when it's probably the best home field advantage of the NFL that Buffalo's got up there. I am curious to see how he and that offense fares, because Miami, as soon as I saw they were going to Kansas City, you knew that team had no chance in that weather. No chance.
Absolutely. So fun catching up on all that, man. You were in College Station Saturday for Kentucky, Texas A&M. Cats got their first conference loss, 97-92. It was insane up and down for 40 minutes, and then it was a rock fight for 5 minutes at the end of overtime. Unbelievable how it shifted to me. You know? Yeah,
well, A&M played the way they wanted to play the whole time, and if it was up to them, that would have been the whole game, right? They want to mucky it up. I mean, I don't know. They were in the 300s in adjusted tempo going to that game. They were a 26% three-point shooting team. Just a terrible offense. And you know what? To their credit, and we'll get into was it them, was it Kentucky in a second here, but they put up 97. They played Kentucky's style, like you said. It was an up and down game, and they beat them at it. So you gotta give credit to A&M first and foremost. For Kentucky, I think this was it's not an end of the world loss. You're going to be fine, I think, but it's a little bit of a wake up call that, hey, just because you score a bunch of points every game doesn't mean you can take off the defensive side and not rebound. You know, there's some real issues with those two things. And also they had chances to put this game away a couple of different times, which is I think even more frustrating part. I mean, there was this sequence, I think like 11 minutes left in the second half where they're up 7. A&M misses a shot. If you grab a rebound, you get the ball back, you go score, you're up by 9 or 10. You know, the game's not over, but that's tough. You put A&M in a real hole if you had completed that sequence there. So that one stood out to me. Just small things, you know, getting beat a couple times, you know, second chance points. I think they scored 21. Missing on some. Antonio Reeves missed some easy ones in the second half, but more so passing up some good looks. Like Reed Shepherd is such a good shooter. Just shoot him. You're going to make 50% of them if you're living up to the back of your basketball card right now. So that was frustrating. Even, you know, got to give Reed a ton of credit for those free throws at the end of the game. I saw him because we were on that side of the court. The media was where he hit those free throws, and you could see him smile before he took those shots. I was like, yep, all right, we're going to overtime. Like, no doubt in my mind he's making them. But he also missed one after he got fouled from 3, that if he makes that, you know, maybe it's different. And then you got the goaltending thing where they changed the rule just this year conveniently, where they want to keep the game going. They don't want to have as many reviews, which I'm cool with that. But that one killed Kentucky because they got the rebound very clearly on that possession. And, you know, they call the goaltend. They give Kentucky the 2 points only to take them back. And Kentucky loses a possession that they should have gained. And it ended up being a huge difference. So frustrating one all the way around. But I think this was a big learning experience for this Kentucky team. We learned, I think, both for the team and for everyone who watches the team. We learned a lot about this group, both good and bad, on Saturday.
I'm with you on I think up 7. To me, that was it too. It was 65-58.
Yes, that was it.
And you know, every coach will tell you the possession isn't over defensively until you secure the defensive rebound. You don't get a stop until you get the defensive rebound. They forced a missed shot, and it was one of those back taps or whatever, one of the many offensive rebounds they got.
A lot of back taps, yeah.
And I think it was Radford, the lefty, hits the 3, and it's 65-61.
Yep.
Where you nailed it. You could have been going for a chance to go up 9 or 10. And from that point, I think you kind of break them if you score there. But they hit the 3 at the 4. and it's a ball game, and you couldn't,
Couldn't close.
That was the seesaw tipping point for me. I'm with you. I'm like, man, that was, and I'm with you too. The offense looks like it's going to be legit all year.
Absolutely.
But so you're not Gary Payton, you're not, Dikembe Mutombo or, some defensive great. You still can't have teams just licking their chops to play your defense.
Exactly.
You gotta slow some guys down and limit them some kind of way. Because there's no way. The past 2 games, did A&M score 97? They scored like 50 something at Auburn.
I mean, they went into that game. I forgot what they were. And I know they were a 26% 3-point shooting team, which was like in the 340s in the country. Worst Power 5, or if you will, group of 6, I guess, in college basketball. And so like there was no excuse for them to be hitting as much as they did. And I get they hit some shots that are like, all right, like what are we gonna do? Right. But there were some open looks, man, and there were a lot of straight line drives. I think that was the thing that frustrated Cal. Talking to Orlando Antigua today, frustrated him. Even after the game with Rob Dillingham, who got on Yenso, like straight line drives. They just got beat 38 points in the paint. They're giving up 30 points a game in the paint. That's not good. And they got to figure it out. They're struggling on the pick and roll, defending the pick and roll. Rob Dillingham, after the game, I asked him about it. He talked about communication and maybe not reading their keys as much as they need to be. Antigua said today that they got to get to a point where they dictate where the ball goes, when defending screens. So there's a lot to clean up on that. And then the defensive rebounding, it's not like it's been a epidemic with this team. Like they've had some good performances on the defensive glass. They're like not a horrible defensive rebounding team, but we saw a little bit of a warning sign against Illinois State when they gave up 24. That one dude had like 15 rebounds and 9 of them were offensive. So it's like, okay, if Illinois State's going to do this to you, what's a team exactly like Texas A&M or Mississippi State that comes in tomorrow? What are they going to do to you? And we learned they're going to beat the crap out of you. And that's what A&M did, man. 25 offensive rebounds. They do that thing where they tap every ball and they try to get it to their guards, and it worked. Yeah. And I get it. It's tough. Like they're a special offensive rebounding team down there, but it's unacceptable. You just can't have it. You got to close possessions. And that's going to – and Rob Dillingham said it best too after the game when I asked him about it, that, if you get those rebounds, we're such a good offense. We made as many shots as them in less possessions. You give us more possessions,
right?
We're gonna keep scoring, and we're gonna crack 100. We're gonna win that thing and make it no contest. So that's why they were able to win the Missouri game, is because they had any game they've I don't think they've lost all their 3 losses. They didn't got out rebounded in. They've had a couple where they've been able to survive getting out rebounded, but they're not like UNCW killed them on the glass. Like they got to figure it out rebounding wise and defensively to be the complete team, because there is, as good as this offense is, they've scored at least 80 in all but one game. They scored only 89 times last year. So it shows you how much better they are offensively this year compared to last. As good as they are, there is going to be a night, we don't know when, but there will be one where they just can't shoot,
right?
Where they can't even clip 70. They're going to have to go win that. What if that game comes in the NCAA tournament? It could. And they're going to have to go win a game with defense and rebounding. And as of now, they have not proven they're capable of that.
It's hard to believe that might be the case. The way they – and in some of these games, they're dropping 80, 85, 90, and it seems like they're still not even clicking. It's like It's like they're a little bit off. They struggled and still scored 85.
They weren't like, this game wasn't even perfect offensively.
Yeah.
It was good. I mean, Rob Dillingham did at the end of the game was just stupid good.
Goodness gracious.
But it wasn't like they were totally in sync. The turnovers just spiked a little bit the last couple games. And they scored 92 pretty easily. But we saw it. We saw it in overtime, right? The offense went 0 for 8 from the field. They could not hit. They could barely touch the rim. It was a disaster. And they lost because they got top. A&M grabbed 9 rebounds in overtime, 5 of them offensive. They didn't score that much, but they did just enough. And that type of thing could happen any given night. And that's what's scary with this Kentucky team. Like, it's going to happen. As good as they are, it is going to happen. And you've got to find a way to win a games multiple ways. I thought that was what was so special about the Florida win. You said it right there. Like, they scored 87 in that game and they couldn't hit 3.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a game where they can't hit anything. That's my concern with this team. And my biggest concern is it's going to happen in tournament time and it's going to kill them, kill their season. And that's not what you want. You want them to prove before you get to ugly. As boring as that might be, because we saw so much of that crap the last 2 years,
right?
It would be very beneficial to have one game. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. Mississippi State's a great defensive team.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe tomorrow they can win a game 75-70. But they need to prove they can do it.
Because watching the Florida game, it's still in the 50s and 60s, and I'm like, I don't think we're getting to 80 today. And
I didn't think so either.
They darn near got 90 still yet, And like we said, you can't let teams lick their chops to play you. And when you are playing a pathetic offensive team, it should not be a get right game. That should
it can't be.
I know Texas A&M was desperate. They're 0-2 in conference. They gotta have it because they've already dropped a couple.
Yeah.
But for them to just nearly hang 100 on you, that you can't be.
No.
Like,
and it was really 2 guys. That's what's wild, man.
Yeah.
I mean, Wade Taylor had 31 and Tyrese Radford had 28. I don't think anyone else got to 10.
Like your Yankees are struggling, three straight games where they're not hitting.
Yeah.
And then, the who's the worst team in the AL?
Oakland.
Oakland comes in and, y'all tee off and get 12 runs in the, first 3 innings.
Sure.
That should not be the way opposing offenses view Kentucky. Hey, we can't throw it in the ocean. Oh, we're playing Kentucky. Now we're going to score 100. And that's
what's happening right now.
I knew they played tired, but I still, for them to hang 97, 89 in regulation, I did not expect.
And even look, the Missouri game, they played pretty well in the second half defensively. They got bailed out. Missouri missed some open shots down the stretch.
Yeah, and Sean East got hurt too.
And he got hurt. Exactly. Missouri was getting. Yeah, he was cooking all night. And Missouri was getting all they wanted in the first half. I mean, they shot 54% from the field in the first half. And that was not a good offense. They weren't A&M bad, but they weren't that much better. And we've seen too much of that all year. Florida is the best offensive team they've played this season, I believe, statistically. Maybe Carolina and Kansas are up there, but I know Florida's still ahead of. I'm pretty sure Florida's ahead of both of them. And they played well against them in the second half, but that first half was terrible. They're just gonna. If bad defensive teams are hurting you, that's a problem. So they gotta and tomorrow. Look, tomorrow's going to be another. I just kept bringing it up. Maybe it'll be the ugly one. Mississippi State is not a very good offensive team. I mean, Tulo Smith is a dominant player. We all know that. We've seen him play for a couple of years now. They have a freshman guard, Josh Hubbard, who's having a really good season, averaging 15. And then they have no one else who's averaging in double figures. And no one, I don't even think they have a key rotation player shooting above 40 from 3. So this is not a great offensive team. This is a team that wants to beat you with offense and with defense and rebounding. Mm-hmm. And they just did it to Tennessee. They muddied up the game. They were able to hit some shots to get the win. This is not a team on paper Kentucky matches up very well against, but they're at home, which we have learned. College basketball, it is almost impossible to win on the road this year. I don't know what's going on, why it's so. I mean, it's always hard to win on the road. I don't want to say that, it's never been hard, but this year, UCF beating Kansas at home and all the wacky ones. Even I think Tennessee is a better team than State. I don't think that should have happened. I don't think this loss should have happened for Kentucky as good as better as their record as they are with A&M. There are some really head scratching road losses throughout college basketball this year. I mean, UConn lost to Seton Hall. There's just a bunch of examples. So Kentucky's got the benefit of this one being at home, but they go to Starkville at the end of the year. This is the type of team that would scare me come March. Not
exactly
because Kentucky hasn't proven they could. I mean, they've won, but they haven't proven they could go out there and play the style of basketball they need that it might take in the tournament against one of these teams.
And this, we talk about it a lot, the investment that the SEC's made in basketball.
Yeah.
Cal talks about it, how you can't it's hard to run the table now than it used to be. And all these teams are focusing on basketball facilities and all that. I was talking to a couple Tennessee fans at work. I was like, and this was before they went and played Mississippi State. Mississippi State is one of those games where if you don't show up down there, they're gonna beat you. They're not elite or whatever. They're flawed, like a lot of teams are. But if you don't come in ready to play, they're gonna beat you. They were up 14-15 before Tennessee could blink. Tennessee rallied in the second half and made it a game. I think they even tied it at one point. But like you said, Mississippi State hit some shots and were able to hold on. If this was at Starkville tomorrow, it'd be even more concerning for Kentucky. And they better not, take it lightly being at home tomorrow, because they can come in and beat you as well.
UNCW did it.
Exactly. So the league is rugged. Everybody's going to beat each other up.
Sure.
Mississippi State is that kind of team. They got some talent, but if you're slipping, they can
get you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even you want to look ahead. We're allowed to do that. Players aren't, but we are. South Carolina next week, where Kentucky will obviously be on the road. They're number 26 in the country in defense, so they're not going to make it easy on you. Maybe that's a game where you can't rely on the offense. So there are going to be these games, and even again when they play Florida, I know Arkansas is terrible, but they're actually having an okay year shooting the ball. Like they're going to have to. They have to win they have to show they can prove they can win in different ways. So far, I think they've shown two. They've shown they can win a game where they're still scoring a bunch, but maybe it's not from three. That's the Florida win. And then they're showing that they could just beat you by just lighting up the scoreboard. I don't think they've proven they could win any other way. And that is a little scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a slow down, grinded out game.
They haven't, yeah. And no, trust me, I love watching this team compared to last year was miserable. Product-wise, right? Like they were slow, they were archaic, they didn't shoot the ball well, all the above. But I'm not saying it needs to be every night. You need to turn into a grinded-out team, but there's going to just be games where that's what the game dictates, and that's what's going to take come March, man. You're gonna run into some buzzsaws the longer you stay in that tournament, and even I know it means more for the fans, I think, than reality, but even the SEC tournament, you mentioned how tough and physical this league is. If you want to get back to winning that tournament, you're going to have to you might have one, especially playing 3 straight games. That's Sunday when your legs are tired. It seems like the product of basketball in that SEC championship game is always terrible from at least one team because they're just gassed. If you want to win that tournament, you got to bring it on both sides all 3 days.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see, and like I said, with Georgia this weekend, same kind of game. And speaking of South Carolina, we just need some payback from them, because lost down there last year. No, lost at home to them.
Home last year. It was a quad 4 loss.
Yeah, 2 in a row in football.
Yeah, and and Kentucky struggled in this arena. It seems like this is a game they always struggle in on the road. Like they've won more times than not, but obviously there was the buzzer beater there a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Cal's gotten thrown out of this game once or twice.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's always kind of a weird game when they play South Carolina. Usually at home, they take care of business. They did not last year.
Right.
That was their first home loss to them in a while. But this is, their fans are going to be ready for it because they have a great product this year. Credit to them. They were the worst team in the SEC last year. This year, they're 14-2, and they're 2-1 in their first 2 league games. Yeah. I don't know who they have this week. They got Georgia today. So the 2 teams next on Kentucky's schedule, and then Arkansas Saturday. So there's a chance South Carolina could be 5-1 going into that game, or 4-1. Don't want to get too far ahead. I think of the 3, I still think tomorrow's the toughest game, just from a matchup standpoint. But this league, man, like you said, they invested a lot of money for this to be the product, and they're getting the bang for their buck. There are a lot outside of Vanderbilt this year. They're a mess. Maybe LSU. There's not any game on this SEC schedule that even Arkansas, because they have so much more talent than they're playing. Man, there's not a game, and with the atmospheres, there's just no game you could take off in this league and expect to win. And what's good is, and I'll say this is positive, Kentucky is not, and the UNCW loss was just messy. I don't think they quit. I don't think they didn't show up for that game. I think they've showed up every single time, every single game. The Illinois State game might be. Yeah, they missed Wagner bad.
Still should have won, but they missed him.
They missed him, and Bradshaw coming back kind of got them out of rhythm, whatever. Like, that game sucked. It's not excusable, but you can kind of understand it. But I think they've showed up every single game. Illinois State is the game I think they scored 96, so it's hard to get on them too much. But the way they rebounded was concerning. So, I think this team's going to be fine. It's just there is I think Saturday was I wouldn't say pump the brakes game, but it was like a red flag. Like, hey, remember, like, this team has some flaws. They're still young. It's still January, thankfully, and there's still a lot to clean up. They're not just going to go in and walk through the SEC and walk through the SEC and NCAA tournament. Like, this team has some things to work on before we get to March that you have a lot of good opportunities to get done here. And
it's been harped on. It's been addressed. You heard Cal say, well, we worked on all last week, rebounding. They're hearing about it, no doubt.
Yeah.
They know these teams, are strong on the glass. There's film now of them being punked on the glass, on the defensive glass. So
they need to do Theo back, man. Like,
yes,
him back.
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned him yet. I mean, this is going to be doesn't sound like he's going to play again tomorrow. So that's going to be 5 in a row. We're almost looking at a month now. He has, I think his last game he played was Louisville. So they need him back. He's their enforcer. They don't have an enforcer right now. Like, they have height with Aaron Bradshaw, Ugo. And Mitchell's doing a nice job rebounding. I don't think he's going in there and being the most dominant physical guy.
Right.
Where Aduthiero just comes in there and he gives it all he's got physically. He blocks shots. He grabs rebounds. He affects shots. That's the guy you need back in this lineup ASAP. I don't know. I have nothing on him. I don't think anyone has a real update or understanding of what's going on there. But, man.
But general soreness,
growing pain.
Is it growing pain? Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard just about everything. I see fans saying he's suspended. I don't think it's that, but there's just it's crazy. What this? It's another one of those mystery Kentucky basketball injury situations. So eventually you hope he's going to be back soon, and I think that's a guy that changes a lot of this, not all of it, but a lot of this. So yeah, they just got to find a way to be tougher. Orlando Antigua today was talking about positioning on some of these rebounds. Ugana was the one after the game who said they have to kind of be the enforcer. They haven't necessarily been that lately. So whatever it takes, man, they just got to close these possessions. Because if they can, if they can start getting some stops, they're going to get, and if they have more possessions than the other team, they're going to win almost every game with how good this offense is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, there will be a game where it doesn't happen, but for the most part, if they get more possessions, good luck. So I think they know that, and now it's a matter of going out and doing it. But the competition's really hard to do it against.
Yeah, and Adu is the most physical guy on the team for sure.
It's not even that close. I don't think so.
Yeah, and as much as Ugo was kind of bulked up, he still gets pushed around. So
yeah, and he's and I thought he played a lot better in the second half than the first.
He did.
But he's also, you got to remember too, I see fans giving him a lot of a hard time, and he didn't outside of SEC. Once they got to SEC play, he hardly played last year. So then he got hurt, and he didn't get back on the floor until the UNC game and practicing a couple weeks before that. So this guy is basically a freshman.
Yep.
So there's just there's a lot to be desired, I get, with him, but he's got some time, and I think he did a lot better in that second half. But you're right, he is getting pushed around, he's getting beat around on screens. That's a problem, and that's why you got to get Adu Thiero. I like Jordan Burks a lot as a kid. He's not ready yet, and Kentucky knows that. That's why they're not leaving him out in the court that long. Adu Thiero they need him for 20 minutes a game to just go in there and muck it up, and he scores a little bit too. He's a little bit of a paint presence that they're missing as well. So on a night where Aaron Bradshaw fouled out, or didn't foul out, but couldn't stay on the court, Adu Thiero would have played 35 minutes in that game, and it would have been. I think they probably would have won it. It was just,
as Cal likes to say, it was a buzzer luck game for Bradshaw. Everywhere you moved, everything you did, you turn inadvertently, you're bumping the guy. It's just a foul. And no kind of rhythm. As soon as you get in, you get a foul, you get two, then you get your third. It's just
and there's some easy tweaks there. I think there's some, like, he was playing a lot with the hands of not straight up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some tweaking you could do with him, but everyone's gonna have a game like that. Like, I'm not that concerned about Aaron Bradshaw. And remember, like, the scouting report on Bradshaw wasn't that he was going to come in just because he's tall. He wasn't going to be an elite rebounder. I think we kind of got fans got their expectations up a little high when he had the double his second game back. But you got to remember it was against UPenn. So, he's done some good things. He played great down the stretch at Florida. I think he'll be fine. But he's not going to. I don't think he's going to ever be their enforcer. I think their enforcer is Adu Thiero, and the problem is he's out, and we don't know exactly why.
Yeah. Interesting. So tomorrow at 7, Mississippi State. They'll be itching to get the bad taste of Saturday out of their mouth and get back in the win column. So
when this is a game that, as much as it is a really tough game on paper, but Kentucky's had their way with State for a long time now. They're 17-1 in the Calipari era. The one loss was that SEC tournament in 2021, the worst Kentucky team maybe ever. So Kentucky's definitely handled business against the Bulldogs. Haven't lost to them at Rupp Arena since Billy Clyde Gillespie was the head coach. So, I'm not trying to jinx it, but the numbers are in Kentucky's favor historically, and I still think they're the better team here. But this is a team that's going to mucky it up, and Kentucky's going to have to be tough.
Lost that SEC tournament game by 1, right?
74-73. Yeah. So
that's when Dante Allen would light up Mississippi State every time.
It was unbelievable.
Both games, he was just go off on
and then he did it again the next year. It was unbelievable. He just loved playing against that team. I'm surprised he didn't transfer there.
Sure. Well, man, AJ, I think we caught up on everything. Have a good evening at Rupp Arena tomorrow. Hope the Cats have a good evening on the court. Glad to get your thoughts on all the football stuff as well that happened, because that was monumental stuff, man. With all the
unbelievable week
retirements and departures, it was just historic.
Yeah,
with Pete Carroll winning titles at USC and should have had 2 with Seattle. Yeah. Belichick with his 6, Saban with his 7, all that in a week. That was unbelievable, man.
Yeah, so, I mean, I just can't get over Kalen DeBoer, that whole story. I don't know how, I'm sure, Jalen's an Alabama guy, and I'm sure you guys talked about it last week, but to go from, he was at Sioux Falls in 2009, like not that long ago. And then he's, the OC at Indiana just 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And now he's the head coach. He wakes up 3 days after losing the national title game at Washington. You're the head coach at Alabama. I mean, what a story that is. I feel bad for, Washington and everything. That's a tough week, but if you're Kalen DeBoer, man, what a story. That's really inspiring stuff right there for any coach that feels like they're stuck or anything. Like, look at what Kalen DeBoer was able to do. And he's still only 49. Like, he could be there for 20 years if things go well. So congratulations to him for sure.
Yeah, you talk about trajectory. That's
unbelievable.
Yeah, skyrocket.
And what's his 104-12? I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah,
it's nuts. So good hire.
Absolutely. So we'll root the Cats on tomorrow. See what happens with Liam Cohen. We'll talk about it all next week after Kentucky plays South Carolina in Columbia. We'll be back next Wednesday. And hope if everything goes well, we should have Zach Gagan from KSR on to talk a little basketball. He would have hopped on today, but they had a little surgery, a little dental.
Yeah, he was at the I heard him talk about that. He was at the Orlando Antigua press conference today, so hopefully that went all right.
Yeah, so it can't be coming on if you can't talk. So
yeah, that's a problem.
Hope all that stuff goes well. And that stuff is rough initially when you
not fun.
But you get through it and you feel better. So hopefully that takes place for Zach, and we can talk a little basketball with him next Wednesday at our 9:00 normal time. So, man, AG, appreciate everything. You got anything coming up on the Cat's Paws? Tell everybody about your work. You got anything? If you don't know, you should be following and reading Aaron on the Cat's Paws.
Yeah, nothing else as of now. Just basketball coverage. Nothing crazy upcoming here. But obviously, we're in the heart of basketball season, man, and a lot of traveling next week. You mentioned it, South Carolina, Arkansas right after that. So, big week coming up next week, just from a logistical one, but all fun, man. I love this time of year. I wish it wasn't 5 degrees, but otherwise it's basketball season's a ton of fun, and this team's a lot of fun to watch. Just hopefully they can get some stops here and make us all feel a little more comfortable about them heading into the bigger months here, late February, March, all that good stuff.
That's right, because they're capable of blowing out everybody. Just a few
they
stops
can win
here
it.
and there.
They take the floor.
Mm-hmm.
They could be anyone on any given day, but the way they play, they can also lose. So that's what's, not that I don't think they should lose every game, but they have that capability when they don't play defense.
Right. You give them a chance to stay in it when you could have. Otherwise, look, we know it. You talk to the old guys that have played. You talk to a Cameron Mills. You talk to a Tony Delk. You talk to those guys that have, when we're up 10, the next 4 minutes we're going to be up 15 or 20.
Yep.
We want to just keep extending, keep separating, and if you're getting stops and you know how good you are offensively, that's what happens. You stretch your lead out because they can't keep up with you either way. So hopefully the Cats can kind of get a little better,
Yeah.
get a little consistent, and then it'll just be easier for them. They'll make it easier on themselves.
Exactly. If they get stops, they have more possessions than you. They're going to win every game.
Exactly.
That's how good they are offensively. But it's easier said than done. So we'll see if they can start turning that corner tomorrow night.
That's it. We'll see what happens tomorrow. AG, appreciate all your coverage. Hope to have Jalen Whitlow back next week as well. Check us out here. We go live each and every week. Apple Podcast, subscribe. Spotify, subscribe. Leave comments. We appreciate all that. And, we got our shirts that we talk about. Got our Cat Daddy shirts. Go to shop.believe.com. Get yourself a shirt and holler back at us next week. Y'all be safe, stay warm, and we look forward to your articles about the game tomorrow. And we'll catch everybody next week on another episode of Believe in Kentucky. We'll see y'all next time.